Last year, around this time, I attended a wedding, and almost every kid that we met would say they want to grow up and be a YouTuber or something to do with social media or be in advertising or, one of these glamorous fields. And although this year we've been through a lot, we've had a terrible pandemic unleashed on the entire world. Never has there been more interest in bioinnovation, biotechnology, medicine, science in general. Everybody has been either Googling or reading up how vaccines are made, what are all the different trials that we have to go through to have an effective vaccine come up. In keeping with all of these questions, in June this year, we had one of our first Safety Net podcasts with our expert, Dr. Ashish Vora. He's a virologist and a specialist with vaccines who simplified for us how viruses function, how vaccines are made, all the different trials that we have to go through. And in case you've missed that podcast, please do check it out. We'll put in the link down below in the video description. Now, it's almost the end of the year. It's December 2020. And we thought we'd invite him back again to understand just how much progress we have made with this COVID vaccine. We keep listening to news articles every other day talking about this company, this vaccine, this much efficacy, these many complications, and how much of it is actually true. Here to fact check all of that and simplify all those complicated scientific terms for us, we have Dr. Ashish Vora. Do listen into this podcast. I promise you it's a lovely one. So, hello and welcome, Dr. Ashish Vora, back to our podcast and telling us more about the vaccine status that is happening all around us. There's been a lot of hype, there's been a lot of talk this year about vaccines in general and specifically for COVID-19. And the last time we spoke, we were talking generally about viruses, about how vaccines are made and all the entire process that the entire process that we have to go through to create something like this. And we also specify that it doesn't happen too soon. It's a long drawn process, to get something that is effective. And of course, a lot of work has been done all over the world for this pandemic, and we have managed to get somewhere, and that's what we keep reading in the news all the time. Those are the updates that we keep getting. So what exactly is happening? How far have we reached? How much progress has been made? That is what I wanted to talk about this time, and of course, no better person than you to tell us. So
thank you very much.
Why don't we start with just that? Where are we as far as the COVID-19 vaccine goes as of today?
Well, there is good news, and the good news is that there are 2 vaccine candidates which are almost about to get approved by the FDA. One of them is with Pfizer and BioNTech working together, and the other one is Moderna, both of which claim to be greater than 94% effective, and with very few side effects.
Right.
And I'm sure there are other vaccine candidates coming up, but these are the main ones that people should focus on for now.
Right. So I've read about the Pfizer BioNTech, then there's the Oxford AstraZeneca and the Moderna vaccine. Now there are 3 big names that we have been hearing. And also everybody keeps talking about efficacy, something is 95% efficacy we've reached with something, and 94%. So a lot of times, people who don't have much of a medical background or a scientific background would not understand the term efficacy. So what exactly, could you elaborate what the term efficacy of a vaccine means?
So what a 94% or say any percentage of efficacy means is that from a pool of people that were given or administered the vaccine, 94% were protected without any adverse outcome or without any fever or any of the disease symptoms.
Right.
So that's what it means, that 94% of the people were protected by that particular vaccine.
Right, but that doesn't mean that the vaccine is 95% ready and only 5% of the work is left. Because a lot of people seem to think... because, and I don't blame them if I would also think that way, the way it's being projected. So that is not what it means. Thanks for clarifying that. So the vaccine is ready, the trials are on, and 95% of the people who have gotten it seem to be doing okay.
Yes.
That's pretty
Yes.
much what efficacy means, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
So if the vaccine wasn't ready, it would not go into trials.
Right. So we've all, also been hearing about a lot of complications that the vaccines seem to be giving. Now, as a doctor, I know that any drug or any vaccine that is given, there is always a certain risk. There is always a certain level of complications that we anticipate. But since, of course, with social media, with the news channels, with the news cycles going about, even a single complication is kind of blown out of proportion. So as far as this vaccine goes, as far as this virus goes, what are the complications we would expect, and how much, what are the chances of them actually happening?
So I'll tell you about the two vaccines that I do know about, the Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna. I'm not very well versed in the Oxford and the AstraZeneca one. But so the term that we use to describe a reaction to the vaccine is called a reactogenicity of a particular vaccine. Right? How much of a reaction a particular vaccine can evoke. Okay, that's reactogenicity. And in what we have, what evidence that these two companies have shown at that is that there is the reactogenicity of the vaccines is not particularly severe. For I think Pfizer and BioNTech, about 2% of the people who were vaccinated showed a headache and a mild fever.
So those are minor complications, I would say, right?
And only 2% of the people had it.
Right.
Okay, of all that was tested. And in I think Moderna, about 9% to 8% people had headache and muscle ache. Okay, and so all these all these effects that I have described, fever, headache, muscle pain, these are transient effects. None of them are permanent effects. Right. So they will come and they will go within maybe at the most a week or two. Right. And this actually means, the fact that we are seeing these actually means that the vaccine is working. They're not bad. So if let's not get into the mindset, oh my God, fever, headache, muscle pain, or these are bad things. This means that the vaccine is actually working. The vaccine is getting a little bit of a response from your immune system, which means the vaccine is actually working. So there's nothing to be afraid of. It's something that should be taken as that it's working in real time. It's not they're not shooting blanks.
Right.
So and the percentage that we are seeing in the trials, 2% for Pfizer and BioNTech, it's not that high. I mean, for now it seems 2% is not that high, but when you take it into a global perspective, 2%, the numbers may seem high. We have 7 billion people, and 2% of 7 billion is a lot.
Right.
But then for now, that's the vaccine that we have, and fever, headache, muscle pain, they aren't severe symptoms, and they're all short-term symptoms. Long-term symptoms, we've not had enough time to make any kind of claim, because long-term means 6 months and more, 1 year, 2 years. Not enough time has passed.
Right.
Not enough time has passed for us to know. But so far it seems that these vaccines are not that bad. Or I wouldn't say not that bad, they're pretty good.
Right. So, given that they were really, we didn't have much time to run all of the trials, but whatever has been done so far, it's been a mammoth effort from everybody all over.
It's tremendous.
Exactly.
See, the first time, if you recall, in our the first time we talked about, my estimate was that एक साल में vaccine, 1 year, it's too short. It's 2 years is something that is required. But
and
it's
let me just
the
remind
fact that
the viewers.
Let
me just remind the viewers and listeners again that you are not talking out of your hat. You are someone who has worked on vaccines before for flaviviruses, right? Dengue, Zika, and all of these other viruses. So you have been through the grind, and it's not an easy task. So I think everybody who's worked on these vaccines does deserve a standing ovation, and probably they need the floral tribute from the helicopters and all of that come through.
And not just that, and to come out to come out with vaccines which are 94% effective.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous, and it's not even been an entire year. It's been 9 months
Exactly.
since they've started working.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how far we've come in terms of science and technology.
Absolutely.
That we've been able to, and everybody in the world working together to get this out.
Exactly. I think that has also been phenomenal to watch, that everybody coming together to fight something, and how powerful that feeling is.
Yeah.
So
but this is not the topic. So what I'm going to say is not a topic of our conversation right now. But think about it. Like, if there's a particular disease that we want to get rid of, okay, we have the wherewithal to do it, but we're probably lacking the will.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's like tons and tons of diseases for which vaccines don't exist. Like, for example, dengue.
Yeah.
Right? It's been so many years. HIV. It's been so many years.
Yeah. We probably
That's something to think about.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, coming back to complications, you were saying that these are short-term complications, and to a certain extent we do expect, even when we give our children vaccinations, usual vaccinations, we do tell parents that if there's a fever, it's pretty normal. If it goes down within 24 to 48 hours, don't worry about it. That would just be your, to remind people again, this is your body building an immune response to what we are injecting to you. So this could all be part of a normal immune response. Long-term complications could probably be something different. So they could be, would you like to just tell us about any long-term complications that you've heard of or know of, or anything of that sort? Anticipate.
Yeah, there can be so many, and it's like conjecture. Let me just say that right up front. Okay, this is conjecture. Okay, it is all conjecture, and these are possibilities of what may happen based on observations in the past for other vaccines. Okay, and just based on the knowledge of how our body functions. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen or may happen with these vaccines, with coronavirus. Okay, but these are just conjectures that I'm making, which could possibly be long-term, effects of any kind of a vaccine, not just this vaccine.
Right.
Okay. And those could be where you develop sort of an immune reaction which starts attacking your own body, where your immune system does not recognize your body as a self. Okay, it starts recognizing your body as a foreign material. So, and it starts attacking itself. So I don't want to get into the technical terms, but there's a term called Guillain-Barré syndrome, right? And that's something that we saw.
A few cases have been reported of this in the news, and a lot of people got worried, thinking that they'll have some kind of paralysis if they take the vaccine. But again, that was 1 or 2 cases, and this could happen with any vaccine. Again, it's not just this particular one. So overall, it seems to be a safe.
It's not a function. It's not a function of the vaccine. It's a function of how your body responds to any foreign material that you inject into it.
Right.
And that could happen with anything.
Right.
Yeah. So these are some of the common ones, where your immune system sort of goes a little bit haywire. Okay, in response to any foreign material that you're injecting into it. And that's just one of the major ones of a long term. There are some specific examples of many other reactions that you may get, but they are very, very rare to worry about.
Right.
These are just some of the main ones.
Right. So overall, this seems to be a good place. UK is, I think, starting to give the vaccine to the general public, and I think India will soon follow. So I think we've done a pretty good job. The other thing that a lot of people wouldn't know about, vaccines is something we call cold chain, and the logistical support that goes when we are giving these vaccines to people. They're given to the center and how they come down. So, in short, would you just like to tell us of that? Okay, this was a mammoth effort, creating the vaccine, but distributing the vaccine is no joke either. It's pretty tough, especially in a country like ours, with the population that we have. So
the challenge is not going to be in Western countries, where every center or every doctor will have a place to store these vaccines over the long term, right? But the challenge comes in countries which are low income or middle income, like India, where we have cities it may not be an issue. When you go into the rural places where there are no fridges or there aren't any freezers to keep these things. So the sort of the good news is that whatever vial these vaccines come into, the vaccine is stable for about 10 days. At maybe shelf temperature, and then for over a month at at a refrigerator temperature. But if you want to store it for 6 months, then you need a freezer that goes up to the temperature of -70 centigrade. So that's you're not going to find that in a lot of places in India. It's probably going to be in some centralized place where it gets sent out. That's going to be a challenge. In a place like India, especially to get the vaccine out. To the rural population. So for 10 days. Yeah.
Could you just tell us why it has to be maintained? The cold chain has to be maintained, because a lot of people probably don't know that it has to be kept at this certain temperature.
Yeah. So these vaccines, these vaccines are made up of like proteins and DNA and sort of nucleic acid materials. These are just biomolecules. And for any biomolecule to maintain its structure where it can perform the function that is designed to do, it needs to be at a cold temperature.
Right.
At the moment that the temperature rises, the shelf life of that particular biomolecule is drastically reduced.
Right.
Because it just gets denatured over time, or a better word would be that it just loses its function.
Right.
So the efficacy of that will it just comes down drastically once the temperature comes to room temperature or higher.
Right. So maintaining
so
that
you need
temperature is very important. So that's what we call the cold chain. So logistically maintaining that from the source of distribution down to people is not easy, and in a country like ours it would be much tougher than probably in Western countries that have better logistical support.
So what's going to happen with these vaccines is that as they are shipped in these containers, and these containers are it's almost like thermocol boxes, and these thermocol boxes are packed with dry ice. Dry ice is just like frozen carbon dioxide, and that can maintain a temperature of -40 degrees.
Right.
So in those packages that they come in, they get shipped in. Wherever they get sent, they are shipped in these packages. Even within India, if you want to go from a centralized location to any remote location, they will be shipped in these packages. And these, as long as you keep replenishing this dry ice, which is still, I guess, cheaply available wherever in India.
Right.
You can still get that little measure of stability. But once you run out of the dry ice, then it comes. You need to find a fridge.
Right. So that would be a little difficult, in a lot of parts of the country, interiors especially. But here's hoping that we've come this far. I'm sure there'll be something that we think up of.
Right.
So last time we spoke, we were still we didn't have as much information as we do today about the COVID-19 virus, and we were still kind of finding our place. And between then and now, I think we spoke last in June. Between then and now, there have been so many people and so many things who have claimed to, either prevent it or cure it or all of these things. So I thought maybe we'll ask the expert and have like a myth busting or a rapid fire session. You can just do a yay or a nay, okay, for all of these. I'm just going to shoot whatever I've read of in the news of whatever people have asked me. कि अरे ये कोविड को मारेगा, अरे ये करने से कोविड चले जाएगा. So you can give us your first thoughts. Let's try and keep this as candid as we can. Okay, so we'll start with yay, nay, and you can give us your comments also. Okay, so here we go. COVID myth busting. Masks.
Yes.
Yay.
Also, but the caveat. Okay, let me explain this.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes. Initially, when we had this conversation, we had discussed how everybody should wear masks. Okay, and the reason that you are wearing masks is not that the mask is going to protect you from getting the virus from other people. It's for you spreading the virus to other people. That still remains the same.
Right.
Okay, but now a little more research has come out that shows that even wearing a mask by yourself, okay, is going to reduce chance of you getting the virus a little bit. But that's only just a little bit. You still have to do all the other precautions that you do, like social distancing, washing hands. Okay, just wearing a mask over your mouth, not even covering your nose, it's not going to work.
Right. Okay. So, okay. Next one is hand hygiene.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Corona is a conspiracy.
No, absolutely no. No.
So you'll be surprised at how many people have asked me, "Hey, Corona hai nahi, Corona hai nahi." You know, it's a conspiracy theory, like aliens landing on Roswell or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a virus, right? That's wreaking havoc.
Yes, and it's hard to. I can understand where these questions are coming from, because when you say, "Oh my God, pandemic virus,"
Yeah.
people are expecting that people are like dying left, right, and center. They are,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are also asymptomatic. So
Yes.
people think that कुछ नहीं होता है virus से, ये नहीं होता है.
Yeah.
People
And a
like
lot of
you and I who are
Yeah.
young,
Yeah.
yeah, they will not get it, but your parents
gotten
won't
away
get
with
it.
it. Tend to
Yeah.
believe us even lesser. They think that I was COVID positive, I didn't have any symptoms, so you're fibbing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there
Yeah.
is a problem. People
It's
are
it.
susceptible, and we've seen some dark days.
So for statistic from the US is about, I think, 3,800 people died a day, I think, last week,
Wow.
which is more people dying from 9/11,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
they still don't have a response,
That's
right?
great.
So we don't want to get there. I mean, we're on our
Yeah.
way, but let's not get there.
Yeah, I hope we really don't. All right. So the next one, and this is another, I think I'd sent you this one. UV sterilization equipment for killing the virus in your mouth and nose. So they have this UV light, which is you're supposed to shine into your mouth, and it kind of sterilizes your airway. A lot of people
Okay.
seem to be believing this.
Okay.
So your thoughts?
So yeah, let me explain a little bit here. There are 3 types of UV rays. There's UVA, UVB, and UVC. And as you go from A to C, the severity of the UV rays becomes more and more harsh.
Mm-hmm.
To kill any kind of bacteria or virus, you need UVC. UVA and B are not effective.
Okay.
These machines that you get for cleaning your teeth or mouth, something like that, they're probably like less harsh, UVA and B, because if you expose yourself to UVC, you are going to end up getting skin cancer or some kind of the other cancer. Okay? Because as you know, everybody knows that skin cancer, melanoma, or
Right.
other kinds
Right.
of cancer can be caused by UV. So
Right.
please do not expose any of your naked skin, eyes, mouth, ears, anywhere, to UVC or any kind of UV light. Let's just
Right.
put it that way.
Right.
And you need UVC if at all you want to kill bacteria and viruses, but that is also not 100%. So if you are planning, to sterilize some equipment or the other using UVC, okay, that's still not an effective way to do it, because the way that it works is that surface has to be exposed to light.
Right.
So you need to then expose every single nook and cranny of that particular equipment where light is not getting through
Right.
for it to be 100% effective.
Right.
Okay, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
because
you
light
need
can't get everywhere.
ideal lab conditions where you expose that certain small bit to UV rays, and then
Yes.
it's a different situation.
Yes, and even then you're not 100% sure because light can't
Right.
get everywhere.
Right. Absolutely. Air purifiers for COVID-19.
Air purifiers, if you have a HEPA filter, HEPA, if you have a HEPA filter, then yes, it will work. Okay, but again, if you're closing yourself, into an open environment and you have a air purifier working, that's not how it works. You need to be in a
Yeah.
closed environment,
Yeah.
like
So
AC.
HEPA filters are the ones we have in our OTs, operation theaters, but it's a completely sterile environment, and we have very protected, we have air curtains, and then you have a HEPA filter.
Yes,
That's a different issue.
laminar flow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm talking of those, those air purifiers that they're selling, which they just keep in the corner of their room.
Some air conditioners have HEPA filters nowadays.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you are working, if you closed off yourself from the rest of the world, your door is closed, you're not going to open it, and your AC has a HEPA filter, maybe you'll be protected.
Right.
But it's still a long shot. You need a lab environment for something like that to work.
So nay for this one.
Yeah, for a real world environment for common people, no.
Okay. Antiviral clothing or masks?
Okay. This is you get big brands now. I read up on it. The big brands like Teasel are coming out with antiviral jeans. Okay. So what they do is that they spray or they coat these jeans with an antiviral, quote unquote antiviral chemical. Okay. So what they claim originally, basically, this is an old concept. It's not new. Okay, it's not, they've just come out with it. It's being used for getting rid of bacteria, not viruses.
Right.
And the way it works is that the chemical just like destroys the surface of the bacteria or virus. But there have been no studies to prove that it actually works.
Right.
So don't bet on it.
Right.
So no for now.
There's also
for now.
This is my last one. Antiviral paint for your houses.
I'm assuming it's the same function.
Yeah. So no again.
No for now.
Okay, so
I hope it works. Let me put that. I hope it works, but there's no data. Yes.
I wish it would, honestly. I'd also get it done,
Yes.
but I haven't seen it work so far. So, okay, so that was our myth busting. I think this was fun though. I'm going to do this more often with you. So, at the beginning of the year, or in fact for the last couple of years, if you asked any kid what they want to do, you have these counseling sessions in school and all, and everybody wanted to either be a YouTuber or be on social media doing something. And then suddenly this year, after everything that they've seen and been through, a lot of people want to shift and come back to these old professions, medicine or biotechnology, or I want to be a scientist and I want to, be one of those people that's making a vaccine. And so, do you have any message for kids that might be watching if they want to take up a field like yours? Anything that they need to do? Any advice you would give to them? What can they look forward to?
You can do social media and be a scientist. Or be a medical person. The example is right in front of you.
Why not?
For me, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be an astronaut. Right, but I didn't get to be an astronaut. At that time, ISRO wasn't that active, so I chose to be a scientist. Right. And every day that I did it, it was a very, very rewarding experience for me. It was my passion, and I turned my passion into my work. Yeah. So every day is something that you learn. You get to learn everything. So the best thing that for me that just sold it to me every day, I felt like going into work was. You go into your lab, and every day you are the only person, you're the first person to know a piece of information. And then you get to tell it to the rest of the world. Oh my God, look what I found.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look what this is. And not just that. Okay, if you find something significant, like, okay, you discover a molecule which can be used to make a vaccine for something that's been a problem over generations and over millennia, or not millennia, but over a lot many years.
A long time. Yeah.
You're helping people out.
Yeah.
You're making lives better. You're making life easier.
Yeah.
And what's better than that? I mean, that's
literally making the world a better place.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's if you're interested in doing something like that, you should always try at least. I know it's hard in India, but try.
Yeah, but why not? I mean, I think avenues are opening up. Research is coming up, and this is a great way to go. It wasn't as glamorous, your field or mine. We were the nerds. We had to study all the time and, miss out on a lot of things. But looking back...
Nerds are glamorous now.
But, it is extremely rewarding. And it's really nice to have kids actually come up to me at least and say, what is it like being a doctor? And, I'd really like to be a scientist someday. And it feels good. So one of the few good things that have come out of 2020, I think. So one of my recent role models is a person called Kate. I forgot her last name, but she's a scientist who works on HIV. At a very young age, she became a scientist. She became a person who had her own lab, and she was doing work as a scientist. And then she got chosen to be an astronaut in NASA. So now she's doing like proper biological research in the International Space Station. Wow.
So I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do.
Dream come true.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So like, let's, my message would be like, don't limit yourself with what you see around you. There is if you want to do something, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
It's this astronaut and a scientist in the International Space Station.
Yeah. I can see your
So-
face. You're just like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Dream come true. No, but I think that's a really nice message, that if you really want to do
Yeah.
something and if there is a passion and you don't limit yourself, opportunities will present and just do it.
Make
go
your
for
own
it.
opportunities,
Yes,
not just
absolutely.
present, right? Make your
Absolutely. I think if you really, really want to. I mean, we got a vaccine in barely 9 months. What better example
Yeah.
is there? What better example is there,
Yeah.
honestly?
Yeah.
So I'm going to end this podcast at just this now. Ashish, thank you so much for coordinating with all your busy schedule, my busy schedule. It's been crazy, I know, but it was really nice of you to make time for us.
Thank you
And
for having me.
it's wonderful to have you always. You're one of my all-time favorite guests, and I hope I get to do more podcasts
you.
with you. Thanks a lot, Ashish. See you soon. That was Dr. Ashish Vora and me, two nerds just hanging out, talking about how cool our fields are. I hope you enjoyed listening in to us and understanding all of these concepts just as much we enjoyed making this podcast. If you do enjoy this kind of healthcare related content, please stay tuned for more updates and like, share, subscribe to our channel, thesafetynet.in. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until our next episode, stay safe and stay healthy.